Welcome back to CineCaps. Today I will show you a crime, biography, drama film from 2008 titled Changeling. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In Los Angeles, 1928, Christine Collins wakes up in her middle-class suburban home. She gets her son, Walter, out of bed and measures his height against a doorframe. They eat breakfast and take the bus, where she drops him off at school and heads to work. She is a supervisor for a telephone operating line. When she picks up her son at the end of the day, he tells her he got in a fight with another boy. One of his classmates had been teasing him that his father wasn't in the picture because he didn't like him. Christine assures him that he is in no way at fault for his father's disappearance. That night Walter falls asleep on the couch listening to one of his radio shows. Christine carries him to bed. The next day she gets called into work on her day off and has to tell Walter that she won't be able to take him to the movies, but she promises she will the next day. She gets ready to leave and tells him to behave. He watches her leave from the window. Christine leaves late from work, there having been a lot of problems to address during the shift and her manager offering her a higher paying role. She misses her bus home and has to walk. When she arrives home, Walter is nowhere to be found. She walks the streets of the neighborhood asking local kids if they've seen him, but no one has any ideas. Christine calls the police to report her son missing, but they tell her it's department policy not to file a missing persons case for children until they've been missing for 24 hours. She begs for their help, but they tell her there's nothing they can do until the morning. 2 weeks after Walter goes missing, Reverend Gustav says his regular prayers for her at his church where his services get broadcast over the radio. He makes it clear that the only reason Walter has not yet been found is because of the incompetence of the LAPD. Christine uses her breaks at work to check with the missing persons department about her son, and her boss notices. In Illinois, a man and a child presumed to be his son eat at a diner. When it comes time to pay, the man explains to the owner that he forgot his wallet at home. He tells him he'll just be 10 minutes going to get it, and his son will stay at the diner for collateral. If he isn't back in 10 minutes, the owner is free to call the police. After several hours without the man's return, that's exactly what the owner does. Police show up at Christine's work to inform her that they've found her son and will be taking her to the train station to meet him. Christine rushes past the press on the platform to her son, but when she comes face to face with the boy, she realizes he isn't her son. She tries to explain this to the police, but they try to convince her that she's just in shock and the boy has gone through a lot of changes due to the recent trauma. They convince her to take him home on a trial run and see how she feels in a few weeks. Christine takes the boy home and feeds him dinner. She leaves him alone to take a bath, and the boy slips and she rushes in to check on him. She notices that unlike Walter, this boy is circumcised, and she pulls him out of the tub and over to the door frame where she keeps track of Walter's height. This boy is 3 inches shorter than Walter was the last time she measured him. She returns to the police station the next day to confront them with her evidence, but they refuse to believe her, and on top of that, they refuse to keep looking for her son because they've technically already found him. The police captain accuses her of trying to return Walter to the state so she doesn't have to deal with her responsibilities as a mother. The police captain sends a child specialist to Christine's home, and when he first arrives, Christine thinks he is there to help her. She soon realizes the police sent him there to try to explain away all of the physical changes in the boy. The specialist tells her that children's growth has been known to be affected by traumatic situations and that the man the boy was with likely could have circumcised him. Christine calls the police captain to complain that the specialist had her parade around her neighborhood with the boy and get confirmation from all of her neighbors that he is her son. She tells him she wants to refute the report that Walter has been found. The boy refers to her as mommy and she loses her temper, throwing a plate of food at her wall and screaming at him, telling him that she knows he isn't her son. She sends him to his room. That night she goes to the boy's room to apologize for being angry earlier, and she tries to convince him to go with her to the police to admit to them that he is not Walter. Reverend Gustav calls Christine the next morning to introduce himself and ask her if she's read the paper yet. She says she hasn't, and he invites her to meet with him to discuss that morning's article. She reads that the specialist reported to the press that he evaluated the child and there's no doubt that he is Walter Collins. The Reverend tells Christine that he believes her, and that this is all just a ruse by the LAPD to avoid the embarrassment of being wrong about finding her son. He tells her that he has made it his life's mission to expose the corruption of the LAPD. He makes it clear that he intends to help Christine fight the police. Christine takes the boy to the family dentist and he tells her that this boy's teeth are not the same, and they couldn't have gotten that way without him undergoing an operation, which he can clearly see the boy has not had. The dentist agrees to put this statement in writing and potentially testify in court. Christine takes the boy to his school where his teacher doesn't recognize him and the boy is unable to remember where his assigned seat was. The teacher also agrees to write a statement and testify in court if it comes down to it. Christine gives a statement to the press letting them know that this boy is definitely not her son and that she has physical proof and several professionals willing to testify. An officer standing nearby reports to the police captain that Christine is talking to the press and he demands that she be brought to the station through the back entrance. The police captain scolds Christine for trying to embarrass the police department in front of the press and again accuses her of just trying to get rid of the boy. He asks if she is determined that this boy is not her son, and when she says yes, he calls in several people to restrain her and admit her to a mental hospital. Upon arrival, Christine is painfully hosed down and searched, and she tries to convince them that she isn't crazy. They don't believe her and won't let her speak to the head doctor or make any phone calls. She is forced to share a room with a disturbed woman who is not pleased by Christine's company. Detective Ibarra is sent out to a ranch to investigate a case where a child has illegally immigrated to the States. On his way, he comes across Gordon, whose truck has broken down on the side of the road. Ibarra asks if he needs any help, and when Gordon refuses, he asks for directions to the ranch. The detective heads off and Gordon seems suspicious. He makes it to the ranch and eventually finds a boy hiding from him. When Ibarra tries to follow, the boy attacks him. He takes the boy into custody and drives back to the station. The Reverend becomes concerned when he isn't able to get a hold of Christine to do a radio show about her missing son. He sends someone to go check on her and report back to him. Gordon gets a ticket to Canada. Christine goes to breakfast the next morning and sits with two women who try to give her advice on how to act normal in the ward to try and go home quicker. One of the women, Carol, explains what a Code 12 is, code for any of the women who have been put there by police. She explains that most of the women there are Code 12 because they tried to report the abuse of a cop in some way and were retaliated against by being locked up. While waiting to be deported, Samford, the boy that Ibarra arrested, has flashbacks of violence on the ranch and begs to meet with Ibarra to tell him the truth about what happened. Christine is finally able to visit with the head doctor. He rudely interrogates her and twists her words to try and give the impression that Christine is not sane. Ibarra meets with Samford and he tells him that he had come to live on his cousin's ranch but soon found out he wasn't allowed to leave. He had to help his cousin kidnap young boys and bring them back to the ranch and kill them and bury their bodies. He says he helped kill at least 20. Ibarra gives Samford a stack of photographs of missing boys and makes him pick out any that he recognizes as being victims on the ranch. Samford identifies most of the boys, one of them being Walter Collins. When Ibarra tries to report his findings to the police captain, he isn't believed. The captain reminds him that they already found Walter Collins, so there's no way he could have died on the ranch. The Reverend and several of his colleagues barge into the police station demanding information about Christine Collins. The captain tells him that he has admitted her to a psych ward because of her unstable behavior. At the hospital, the nurses try to force Christine to take unknown medication and she is held down when she refuses. Carol tries to intervene but is sent to the electroshock therapy room as punishment. Christine visits her later to thank her and Carol reminds her to never give up hope in finding her son. Ibarra and some of the other officers return to the ranch with Samford to make him dig up the bodies he said he has buried as proof that he isn't lying. Samford immediately starts digging up bones and Ibarra calls for a forensics team to come to the ranch. The head doctor tries to bribe Christine with a document to sign saying that she admits the boy that the police brought back to her is Walter Collins, and if she signs it, she will be released. The Reverend and his colleagues show up at the hospital with an article in the paper about the kids' bodies being found at the ranch and how one of them is Walter Collins. They demand Christine be released just as she is about to undergo electroshock therapy. Christine is set free and runs out onto the street where she hears a paperboy talking about the article. She almost faints, but the Reverend follows her outside and catches her. The police chief meets with the captain to scold him for his carelessness and tell him to accept Walter Collins as one of the dead boys found at the ranch so that the public will stop asking questions and eventually the whole situation will go away. Ibarra interrogates the boy that was sent home with Christine and after threatening to send him to jail for interfering with a police investigation, he finally admits to not being Walter Collins. Gordon makes it to his sister's house in Canada and asks if he can stay with her for a little while. She agrees and he goes upstairs to clean up in the bathroom. The sister's husband calls the police and they come arrest him and bring him back to America to face trial. The Reverend is able to get the best attorney in the state to represent Christine in her case against the state of California pro bono. The three of them return to the hospital with a warrant to release all women being detained under Code 12. The women are released. The mayor visits with the police chief to scold him for the ongoing scandal. He tells him that he is up for re-election this year and he needs for this entire mess to disappear. He suggests forcing the captain to take the public blame for the situation. Outside of the courthouse, there is a massive protest in support of Christine against the police department. Inside, they are unable to start the case because none of the members of the police department have shown up. Christine's lawyer tells her that they didn't show up because they didn't want the case on public record. He takes her across the street to where Gordon's trial is being held. Gordon decides to plead not guilty to killing all of the boys on his ranch. The police chief brings the boy they had assumed to be Walter Collins, whose name is actually Arthur, to the train station to be reunited with his real mother. Before getting on the train, Arthur tells the press that the police told him that he was Walter Collins and it wasn't his fault. Christine confides in the Reverend that she doesn't believe that Walter is dead, that she can still feel his presence. Both trials end, the result of the one against the police department being that both the police captain and the police chief are forced to step down from their positions, and there is to be a change in policy in how citizens can be admitted to psych wards. Gordon is charged as guilty and sentenced to death. Before being taken away, he tells Christine that he didn't kill her son. 2 years later, while Christine is at work, her lawyer comes to visit her and tells her that Gordon has asked for her to visit him before he is executed so that he can tell her the truth about what happened to her son. When she arrives, Gordon says he's changed his mind and doesn't want to talk to her because he doesn't want to go to hell. Gordon is executed by hanging 2 days later. 5 years later, Christine is invited out by some of her work friends, but she declines because she has some things to catch up on in the office. Her boss asks her out to dinner and she declines, but she suggests they get dinner the following evening instead. She gets a call from Mrs. Clay, another woman whose son had been kidnapped and taken to the ranch. She tells her that the police have found a missing boy and that she wants her to come down to the police station to see him. Christine arrives to see that the boy is Mrs. Clay's son, David, not Walter. They watch the boy be interrogated by Ibarra about what happened to him on the ranch, and he tells about how he was able to get away because Walter and another boy had made an escape plan for them. When David gets stuck in the fence while Gordon tries to come get him, Walter decides to turn back for him and help release him from the fence. They all run off in different directions. David is reunited with his parents and Christine tells Ibarra that she thinks that Walter could still be alive. She says that David didn't see him die, and he could have been just as successful in running away. The movie ends. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.